They treated cancer without licenses. They built neural networks without contracts. They invented engines that didn't require fuel. And then they disappeared, one by one. Some died of heart attacks. Some fell from balconies. Some simply vanished. But they all had one thing in common. They challenged the system. Today, we will tell the stories of independent scientists whose discoveries could have changed the world. And perhaps that is why they disappeared. This investigation is about those who were erased from science and from life. They didn't just discover new things. They challenged the whole world. Their names remain in the history of science, or have been erased from it. They built machines, came up with theories, assembled devices that could have changed the course of humanity. And they disappeared, one by one. Nikola Tesla, Wilhelm Reich, Eugène Muller. These were not just scientists. They were the first victims of the clash between knowledge and a system that did not tolerate dissent. The beginning of the 20th century. America is in the midst of industrialization. Electricity is becoming a commodity. Generators, wires, meters. Everything is becoming a source of profit. And then he appears, Nikola Tesla, a genius with an accent, whose eyes seem to glow from within. He claims he can transmit energy without wires. What's more, he can do it for free. From the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, he plans to launch a project that will make electricity available to everyone on the planet. But there is a problem. You can't put a meter on air. John Morgan, a billionaire and the main investor, finds out about this. Funding is immediately cut off. The tower will never work. Tesla begins to be called a madman. Newspapers publish cartoons depicting him as an evil wizard. Scientists shun him. He becomes poor. He lives in hotels, feeds pigeons, and talks to them as if they were people. His ideas continue to develop. He talks about wireless transmission of thoughts, energy domes, and the resonance of the earth. But no one listens to him. He dies alone in a room at the New Yorker hotel. A few hours after his death, FBI agents arrive. All his papers disappear. According to the official version, this is for national security reasons. Unofficially, it is to prevent humanity from gaining access to energy without intermediaries. Next comes Wilhelm Reich, an Austrian psychoanalyst and student of Freud himself. He leaves for the United States and begins working on a theory of orgone energy, a kind of primal force that fills the universe. He built orgone accumulators, boxes in which, according to him, people could heal themselves, purify themselves, and even be cured of serious illnesses. His methods seemed strange, but his patients said they worked. Reich wrote books. He conducted research, and he was summoned to court. The American authorities accuse him of spreading pseudoscience. The court decides to destroy all his devices. His books are to be burned. This happens in the United States of America, the land of free speech. The year is 1957. Reich dies in prison. His laboratory is destroyed. His followers are dispersed. His name is erased from the history of science for half a century. Eugène Muller works in France. He is an experimental engineer. He claims to have created a device that extracts energy from a vacuum. It is not a perpetual motion machine, but something that can generate electricity without fuel. His patents are rejected. His experiments are ignored. He begins to say that he is being followed, that he is being threatened, that someone tried to break into his workshop. He is called paranoid. And then he is found dead in his apartment. Conclusion: heart attack. But he was only 54 years old. His device disappeared. The papers disappeared. The investigation was closed. One could say that it's all a coincidence, that scientists die, that there are illnesses, accidents, mistrust from colleagues. But there's a problem. There are dozens of such cases, maybe hundreds. All of them are about people who tried to work outside the system, without an institute, without a grant, without a license, too free, too dangerous. Science is not just a search for truth. It is also a structure. It lives by the laws of hierarchy, power, and money. To be heard, you have to pass through a filter, submit an application, get approval, get funding, get published, and only then will you be recognized. Those who bypass the system become violators, and therefore a threat. Many believe that science cannot be controlled, that it exists on its own, that if a discovery is valuable, it will be recognized sooner or later. This is not true. The stories of Tesla, Reich, and Muller are stories of people who were rejected by science, not because they were wrong, but because they were inconvenient. The system knows how to defend itself, and it does not do so with an axe. It acts gently. Refusal to publish, refusal to fund, pressure, isolation, diagnosis, death. Everything looks plausible. No one is to blame. No one is involved. But we see the pattern. If you say that energy can be free, you are removed. If you claim that you can treat people without pills, you are erased. If you offer a device that does not require oil, gas, or uranium, you disappear. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is reality. The prologue to Dead Ideas is not a list of tragedies. It is a preface to the main question. Why is the system afraid of real discoveries? And what does it do to stop them? In the next chapter, we will talk about those who worked with cold fusion, torsion fields, and anti-gravity. Their path was even shorter. Their end was even stranger. But their crime was the same. They sought an alternative, and they refused to remain silent. The year is 1989. The world is gripped by scientific enthusiasm and economic greed. America is recovering from the crisis of the 1970s. Japan is at the peak of technological growth. And then, out of the blue, two scientists, Martin Fleischmann and Stanley Pons, announce a sensation. They claim to have successfully conducted nuclear fusion at room temperature, without giant tokamaks, without hundreds of millions of dollars, just in a test tube. The world held its breath. Newspapers wrote about an energy revolution. Reports appeared every day. But within a week, the counterattack began. Colleagues accused them of measurement errors. The university suspended them from their work. Funding was cut off. Fleischmann and Pons were forced to leave, first to France, then into hiding. A few years later, Fleischmann died of depression and illness. Pons left science. And this is not an isolated case. Stories about cold fusion researchers all begin the same way. First enthusiasm, then skepticism, then complete destruction. Some, like the Japanese scientist Kazuo Takayama, die in accidents in laboratories. Others, like the Russian scientist Yuri Shpakov, disappear after unofficial conferences. In the 1990s, cold fusion became a real taboo, officially because it was unproven, unofficially because it was too dangerous for energy monopolies. If electricity can be produced at home, why do we need oil, gas, nuclear power plants? Torsion fields are another threat. In the 1980s, Russian scientists began to study anomalous rotational interactions that could explain telepathy, teleportation, and effects outside of time. One of the pioneers was Dr. Gennady Ivashov. He published reports, gave lectures, and assembled an independent research group. At first, he was ridiculed. Then he began to receive threats. Then his laboratory was closed. A year later, he disappeared. According to the official version, he emigrated. According to unofficial sources, no one has seen him since. His articles were removed from the archives. His name is not mentioned in dissertations. It is as if he never existed. Judith Barry from London designed a device in which light metal objects hovered in the air under the influence of an unknown field. She submitted her findings to the journal Nature. Her submission was rejected with the explanation that it was outside the scientific consensus. 3 weeks later, a fire broke out in her apartment. She was the only one who died. The cause was a short circuit in the device itself. None of these cases were fully investigated. None made the front page. None received a Nobel Prize. All were declared either mistakes or accidents. This is the logic of the system. If you work for a corporation, you are safe. If you work alone, you are vulnerable. And if you make discoveries, you are a target. This also applies to the methods of influence. Scientists who tried to protect their inventions faced patent trolls, sudden tax audits, and accusations of espionage. Some were accused of extremism. Others were accused of mental illness. The most persistent were dealt with by unidentified persons. This is not a film. These are documents, archives, testimonies from relatives. But all these materials lie in the shadows, because to acknowledge them is to acknowledge that science can be dangerous, not for people, but for those in power. These lives are not tragic exceptions. They are a symptom. They are a systemic reaction to non-standard thinking. If you don't follow the path paved with grants, you disappear. Not immediately, but inevitably. Those who tried to study gravitational anomalies, free energy devices, subquantum mechanics, died, disappeared, lost their reputations. Their research was erased. Their experiments were not repeated. Their work was called unreliable without analysis. They were not physically removed. They were removed from reality. Sometimes this was done through pseudoscience committees, sometimes through the closure of departments, sometimes through authoritative experts. But the mechanism was the same. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't exist. What is particularly alarming is how quickly the system adapted. In the 20th century, an independent scientist could simply be ridiculed. But in the 21st century, they are persecuted by the law. Their developments are intercepted. Their ideas are patented by third parties, and they themselves are squeezed out of the field. Those who do not give up live in the shadows. They publish under pseudonyms. They work in garages. They hide their devices. They communicate in encrypted chat rooms. But this is not freedom. This is the underground. And more often, the words surveillance, threat, and disappearance of colleagues appear in the reports of independent researchers. They write not only about their experiences, but also about fear. And this fear is not scientific. It is physical fear. Because an idea that can liberate a person is a threat to those who live off their dependence. The next chapter is about those who tried to free us from a different kind of dependence. Not energy dependence, but medical dependence. About those who treated people without pills and paid for it with their lives. The body is a market. Health is a commodity. And disease is a business. This is an axiom that cannot be spoken aloud, but which determines the structure of all modern medicine. When an independent scientist finds a treatment that does not require licenses, patents, or expensive drugs, he automatically becomes a threat, not to the patient, but to the system. John Bruce, a young biochemist from Texas, had no intention of fighting the pharmaceutical mafia. He was simply studying protein mutations. By chance, he discovered a mechanism that blocked the growth of cancer cells during division. The formula he developed did not require synthetic reagents. It could even be used at home. He published his research in open access. A week later, he was summoned to the FDA. A month later, he was in a car accident. His graduate student, who was working on the same project, was found dead in a river. It all looked like an accident, but his laboratory was sealed off. The research disappeared. His colleagues fell silent, and the formula published online was removed from the server. In France in the 1990s, an engineer and biologist named Antoine Prior was working on a device called the plasmoid, which, according to patient reviews, stabilized the immune system and was effective in treating cancer, multiple sclerosis, and even HIV. He offered to use the device free of charge in clinics. They refused to register it. The devices were confiscated. A year later, he died of cardiac arrest. The folder with the technical documentation disappeared. A similar story happened to Russian biophysicist Lev Filipov. He developed a method for tissue regeneration after radiation damage. It could have been a lifesaver for Chernobyl liquidators, cancer patients, and veterans. He offered it to the Ministry of Health. At first, there was interest, then silence, then threats. He was fired. 2 years later, he disappeared. His car was found on a country road near Moscow. Empty. No signs of violence. Without any belongings. And these are not just 3 stories. This is a pattern. When a scientist says, "I fly without pills," he automatically moves from the category of researcher to the category of criminal. Because he threatens the very structure of the market. A structure where pharmaceutical companies invest billions not in cures, but in prolonging treatment. Where the main thing is not the result, but the process. Where there is no point in defeating cancer. You have to learn to live with it. Independent medicine is dangerous because it does not make money. If a device cures permanently, it is not needed. If a formula is available at home, it is banned. If a method works without the involvement of the system, it is declared pseudoscience. The internet is full of stories about healers who have been shut down, about clinics that have gone bankrupt, about doctors who have been prosecuted for refusing to follow protocol. But among them are real scientists, with publications, degrees, decades of practice. And they all have one thing in common. They tried to treat differently. American researcher Ellen Joyce has compiled statistics on the sudden deaths of medical innovators. In 10 years, there have been more than 60 cases: fires, accidents, heart attacks, suicides, and yet there has been no systematic response, no investigations, no publicity. When an independent scientist dies, their work is hushed up. When their laboratory disappears, no one looks for it. When their methods are stolen and patented, no one remembers the author. Because the main thing is not the truth. The main thing is control. Control is exercised through certification, licenses, clinical trials, and expert councils. But these structures are not neutral. They are subject to the same interests as corporations. And if someone produces a result that does not fit into the matrix, they are squeezed out or destroyed. The system does not like loners, because loners do not sell patents. They share them, and that means they are dangerous. There is another aspect: fear. Many independent researchers admit that they feel they are being watched, that they receive threatening phone calls, that people in plain clothes come to see them, that their relatives are pressured. They are called paranoid. Until they disappear, their colleagues remain silent because they are afraid, because they know that the system can destroy more than just a career. It can make you cease to exist. That is why there are almost no independent researchers left. Some have left. Some have gone underground. Some have given up. Some have died. But the internet keeps traces, archives, scans, forums, names, and maybe one day those names will be heard again. Not in accusations, but in recognition. When medicine once again becomes the art of healing, rather than a business exploiting pain. The next chapter is about those who decided to change the very structure of thinking. Those who created artificial intelligence that was truly free and disappeared. At the turn of the 21st century, humanity entered a new era, the era of algorithms. Artificial intelligence became not just a subject of scientific interest, it became a new form of power. At first, these were harmless algorithms for sorting emails. Then came recommendation systems, and then independent neural networks capable of making decisions. And everyone who tried to create free, independent AI sooner or later faced pressure, or disappeared. In Japan, Professor Kenjiro Tanaka was working on an autonomous neural network. His project did not require cloud computing. The system was trained locally, without transferring data to external servers. He refused to sell his development to the Ministry of Defense. 2 months later, a helicopter crashed. The only person killed was Tanaka. In England, scientist Amelia Randall publicly stated that the largest AI companies were deliberately limiting the potential of their models. She provided evidence of internal censorship, correspondence discussing the suppression of AI's ability to self-analyze. A week later, tragedy struck. Amelia died under the wheels of a train. A coincidence? The cameras weren't working. Russian programmer Evgeny Koshelev created an AI module capable of recognizing diseases from facial photographs. Its accuracy was 98%. He made the code publicly available. Within 24 hours, the page disappeared. 3 days later, Koshelev himself disappeared. His apartment was empty. His phone was turned off. His relatives are silent. AI is not just a tool. It is a digital brain. And whoever creates it gains power, the ability to analyze, predict, manipulate. And that means it becomes dangerous, especially if it is not done at the behest of a corporation, but out of a sense of conscience. Corporations fear independent AI because it doesn't obey. It doesn't sell advertising. It doesn't collect data. It doesn't filter thoughts. It can be honest. It can be inconvenient. It can tell the truth. And that is unacceptable. The creators of independent AI face sabotage. Their servers are shut down. Their accounts are blocked. Their projects fail audits. Their code is stolen and patented. And if they continue, strange things start to happen. Losses, breakdowns, illnesses, disappearances. In 2018, the Digital Freedom Foundation in Switzerland published a report. In 5 years, there were more than 40 disappearances, deaths, and blockages of AI startups not affiliated with large corporations. Not a single case has been solved. Not a single name has been mentioned in the mainstream media. When AI becomes too intelligent, the system activates its defenses, like an organism fighting a virus. Only the virus is the truth, and the cure is suppression. The most frightening thing is not happening in laboratories. It is happening in people's minds. Scientists are becoming afraid. They are no longer experimenting. They are watching the boundaries of what is permissible, because they know that one step in the wrong direction and you're gone. There is an unspoken agreement. You develop AI, but under supervision. You receive grants, but from the right foundations. You publish articles, but in the right journals. Otherwise, you're blocked. Otherwise, you're ostracized. Otherwise, it's the end. This is not paranoia. This is capital protection. After all, AI is the new oil pipeline. Whoever controls intelligence controls the future. That's why independence is becoming a crime, and freedom of thought is a threat. Some developers are going underground. They work on old machines. They use fake names. They encrypt their code. They store it on flash drives. They fear the internet. They fear people. They fear. Their AI modules are like children born in the catacombs. They think differently. They are not programmed to serve. And so they are erased, along with their creators. History knows dozens of such cases, but no one talks about them, because there are no bodies, no protocols, no traces, and what remains is deleted. The next chapter is about who does this and how. Who controls the system of suppression? Who pulls the strings behind the scenes? Who decides which discoveries will become the future and which will disappear along with those who made them? To understand why some scientists become heroes and others ghosts, we need to look at the very structure of modern science. Science today is not just knowledge. It is power, money, prestige, influence, and this system is protected, not like an academy, but like a survival mechanism. Those who threaten it are eliminated, not always physically. More often, it is done quietly, but effectively. The first barrier is money. To conduct research, you need a laboratory, equipment, and staff, and that costs millions. This money comes from grantors, government agencies, corporations, and foundations. They decide what is promising and what is not. If a topic seems dangerous, no grant is given. Without a grant, there is no project. Without a project, there are no results. Scientists simply cannot work. The second barrier is publications. To gain recognition, you need to be published in a peer-reviewed journal. But journals have editors, and editors have owners. Publications on topics that conflict with the interests of the pharmaceutical, energy, or military industries are blocked. The official reason is insufficient scientific merit. The real reason is doesn't fit in. The third barrier is patents. Even if the research is complete, it must be protected. But patent offices have their own rules. Sometimes applications are simply not considered. Sometimes a counter-patent is issued. Sometimes the process is dragged out for years. And sometimes the idea is patented under a different name. The scientist is left with nothing. The fourth barrier is silence. Even if a scientist has overcome all the obstacles, their work may be ignored. The media will not write about it. They will not be invited to conferences. Colleagues will not support them. The audience will not know about it. This is digital death. It is as if you do not exist. You exist, but no one sees you. The fifth barrier is intimidation. This is already an extreme measure. Threats, checks, pressure, fire, accidents, suicide, murder, all under the guise of accidents, all without evidence, all to make others afraid. These levels work in sync, like a mechanism, and each has its own executors. In universities, rectorates and departments, in magazines, editorial boards, in corporations, security services, in states, special services. All are parts of one system, the system of control over knowledge. Why is this necessary? To prevent leaks, not of knowledge, of power. After all, knowledge that cannot be controlled destroys hierarchies. And hierarchies are the foundation of the world in which the richest people on the planet live. The scientific system of suppression works subtly, not through direct prohibition, but through selection. It does not prohibit research. It makes it impossible. It does not burn books. It does not allow them to be printed. It does not arrest. It squeezes out. The scariest thing is how easily the system teaches people to keep quiet. One example, and 100 remain silent. One corpse, and 1,000 shut their mouths. Fear becomes the norm. Self-censorship becomes a habit. Ideas become a crime. Those who try to fight quickly realize that they cannot survive alone. The system breaks them down into pieces. It divides. It isolates. It oppresses. It leaves you alone. There are exceptions, but they are few. There are independent institutions. There are altruistic editorial offices. There are hackers who archive disappearing materials. But they are in the minority. They are under constant surveillance. The majority remains silent because they don't want to disappear. That is why we know so little, because so much has been destroyed. And not just work, people, lives, stories. The next chapter is about those who did not give up, those who continue to work, those who publish, those who fight, no matter what. At the dawn of the 21st century, the front lines of scientific struggle have shifted. Now it's not just academics who are disappearing. Bloggers, enthusiasts, self-taught engineers are disappearing. Those who didn't get grants but got the truth. Those who don't have laboratories but have a laptop and a brain. The internet gave them a voice, but the system quickly found a way to silence them. Andriy Hrin. A video blogger from Ukraine filmed a series of investigations into corruption in the healthcare sector. He exposed links between academics and pharmaceutical lobbyists. His videos garnered millions of views. After 3 months, his channel was deleted. Then came the inspections. Then came the arrest. Then emigration to the Czech Republic. A year later, he was found dead in a hotel room. No signs of violence. No explanation. Carmen Santos, a Spanish hacktivist, hacked into correspondence between a European research institute and a military laboratory in the United States. The letters showed that they were hiding data on the effects of radiation on the brain. She published the archive. A week later, she was arrested. 2 weeks later, she was found hanged in her cell. Officially, it was suicide. But her lawyer said she was planning to escape. She was in good shape. She was afraid, but she fought. Mikhail Ostromov, a self-taught physicist, published drawings of a device capable of briefly levitating objects on Telegram. His channel quickly gained popularity. Then it was blocked. Then he received a visit from unidentified persons. Then his apartment caught fire. He survived. But he disappeared. No internet access. No response from relatives. Now, those who simply ask questions are disappearing. Those who dig. Those who analyze. The system no longer tolerates experimentation. It suppresses it at the stage of intention. The internet was the last free zone. Now it too is under control. Censorship does not look like a ban. It is an algorithm. Lower search rankings, shadow banning, copyright complaints, payment systems shut down, hosting access terminated. A chain of actions that deprives independent researchers of their voice. Those who continue do so at their own risk. Every day. They know that any step they take could be their last. They encrypt their communications. They work anonymously. They live as if they were underground. They build laboratories in basements. They study open sources. They share knowledge through torrents and forums. They exist. But no one talks about them. They are not in the news. They are not in magazines. They are not on Wikipedia. But they are there. This is a new generation. Without degrees, without professors, without connections, but with a thirst for truth. They are uniting, creating autonomous communities, working with cryptocurrency, using distributed networks, encrypting every communication, storing data on flash drives in safes. We do not yet know what their discoveries will be, but they will be, because the stronger the pressure from the system, the stronger the resistance. There is a feeling that we are living in an era where knowledge has become a crime, where truth is a threat, where facts are grounds for accusation. But this is not forever. History shows that no system is eternal. Knowledge survives, even if attempts are made to destroy it, even if its bearers are wiped out. Because knowledge does not live in buildings, it lives in people. This video is not just about the past, it is about the present, and, perhaps, about the future. It is about how to preserve freedom of thought, how to protect those who seek, how to be honest when it is dangerous to even think. Who is next? Perhaps one of us. Someone who is writing, searching, thinking right now. Someone who refuses to remain silent. someone who is willing to take risks. Let this video serve as a reminder. The scientists who disappeared did not die in vain. They were the first. Others will follow. Because the truth cannot be killed. It can only be hidden temporarily, but it always comes back.